We had been planning to return to Barbados for 2 years. We wanted to spend at least one Christmas, New Year's Eve with family abroad, as well as celebrate some cousins' birthdays and give my eldest daughter an opportunity to become more familiar with the island our families are both from. Both sets of grandparents are born there. It was to be a very important and sentimental holiday for her, as it was her first ever holiday. We had saved up for 2 years to be able to afford to go. Being a single parent with sole responsibility to ensure my children had a roof over their heads and keep myself up to date with all living expenses while saving for a holiday was extremely difficult, but I did it. Unbeknownst to me, around the 1 year away mark, I found out the house we stayed in on our last visit was no longer available, and I needed to find somewhere else to stay. I was recommended to check Airbnb. This was the first time I had ever been in this position, being responsible for my children abroad and being the only responsible adult on a trip. I was worried and so very cautious about spending money online, but people I personally knew recommended Airbnb, so I found a couple of affordable properties and contacted the hosts. I sent them both the same message. Both seemed accommodating, but Catherine responded quicker than the others and portrayed herself to be very accommodating. I am a very honest person, so was upfront from the very beginning that I had never used Airbnb before. She explained how it worked in regards to payments and procedure of booking. I told her that I was hoping to be in Barbados somewhere between the 20th of December and the 16th of January, but that I couldn't confirm the dates until I had booked the tickets. She said she would pencil me in on those dates and that we could always readjust the dates when I confirmed my tickets, but that I would need to pay a deposit to secure it. I paid a deposit of £255 in January 2019. When I purchased my tickets, I contacted Catherine immediately via Airbnb. I confirmed the dates of my tickets. She said the few extra days would not be a problem. She adjusted the cost and I paid the balance in full. This was in March 2019. I messaged Catherine once the payment had gone through and she acknowledged receipt of all monies paid. A few weeks passed by, and on checking the trip itinerary, I noticed that the dates had not been updated on Airbnb. I immediately messaged Catherine about it. I even expressed that I was worried it may affect us later down the line and that I just wanted everything to run smoothly. Catherine sent me a screenshot of her diary and told me not to worry. The Airbnb was slow on updating their information, but that she had it in her diary and that I had nothing to worry about. All the while, she just kept reassuring me I had nothing to worry about, and she and her aunt were expecting us and would be ready when we arrived on the 17th of December 2019. 2 weeks before we were scheduled to arrive, I sent Catherine a message via Airbnb as a courtesy call, letting her know we were excited and looking forward to going to Barbados, and letting her know of our estimated time of arrival at the house. She responded with pleasantries, again ensuring her aunt would be ready for our arrival, and making light conversation about the weather. Then she sent me another message, accusing me of not paying the full amount, accusing me of trying to pay for only 3 nights accommodation, and saying I owed her a further 820 Canadian dollars. I was shocked to say the least. I pored over all the previous messages, checked my bank account and regained confidence as I found evidence to prove my reaction was right, as I had paid up everything in full back in March as I had remembered. I presented her with the proof and my reaction of total shock at her accusation, especially as I had recalled her acknowledging receipt of all the funds back in March. She then brushed it off by saying she had a busy life, a hectic work schedule, and she couldn't remember as far back as March. To be honest, alarm bells had started ringing from then, but I was in no financial situation to do anything about it. I had struggled financially over the last few months, so much so I hadn't managed to save much cash for spending money. So there was no way I would have been able to find and pay for alternative accommodation within the space of 2 weeks during the Christmas season. We had no other option but to keep this booking. although I didn't express those particulars to Catherine, only that I was low on money as it was. On Wednesday the 17th of December, we arrived at Barbados airport full of excitement. We had finally made it. My daughter cried tears when we had landed. She had waited so long, her first holiday ever, and she's 22 years old. All the family she was looking forward to meeting, all the places she wanted to visit, spending Christmas and New Year in the island her grandparents were born and raised in. It was a big deal. My youngest daughter beamed from ear to ear, being able to witness her sister overwhelmed and happy. But not only that, she was able to reunite with her favourite cousin and the rest of our family. Last time we were here, her dad had promised to take her on the Atlantis, but didn't. That was my goal this time. I promised her I would take her, and she was really looking forward to it. My main reason for coming to Barbados was to provide my daughters with their first ever family holiday successfully. It was to reunite with family members for myself, but more so for my children, because life hadn't always been easy on us in general, and I wanted to provide my children with some solid foundations of belonging, love and happiness, self-pride and association. Not just that, but the last time we were here, Barbados improved my health tremendously, and after suffering with the same health problem for many years, I needed to come to help myself get better, which my healthcare team was also in support of. We didn't gain full access to the house until around 10 p.m. that night. We waited on the veranda for approximately 6 hours. Catherine had suggested we leave our luggage and go to a local beach for the day until we heard word that the house was ready. She estimated it would be ready in 3 to 4 hours' time. As I don't drive, we had no transport to a beach, plus we were tired from the flight, had nowhere to open our cases to get our beachwear out, and could not see a drop of sea from where we were. We decided to visit the local shop and wait at the house until we could enter. Upon entry, we were told the toilet had just been fixed, but not to use it too much. We were told the hand basin in the second bedroom was out of service until Friday, as they want it to set, and they figured it would take 3 days to do that. We had a good look around when Sheila and the workmen left. The whole house was dirty. I took the front bedroom, which was the first bedroom. I had 2 windows. The slat window facing the busy street could not close seal shut and had no curtain, just a very small triangle piece of material that hung from the corner and did not cover any of the window at all. The other window had worn down torn curtains with holes. There was no wardrobe in the room, only a large cabinet which the owner used as storage for towels and sheets. Only the top shelf was empty. There was also an outdated dressing table in the room which could not be used for several reasons. Some drawers were stuck shut. There were 4 drawers that could open, but these were all very, very small, only big enough for, say, 3 pairs of socks at a squeeze. Dirty, dusty, and had items in them such as tampons and pins. There was one middle drawer that was big in width but very shallow, big enough for around 4 shirts folded thinly, but it was filled with bits and bobs like different screws and nails and dusty. The bed sheets were stained and the bed was infested with bed bugs, so much so after only a couple of hours rest my body was covered in bites. There was a small hand basin in the corner of the room which is grimy, to say the least. I only used it once. The water came up the plug hole and took time to exit back out, so I didn't use it again. My oldest daughter took the second bedroom with the unusable sink. There was a wardrobe in her room, but there were sheets and towels stored in there too, so only half of the wardrobe was made available to her. There was nowhere else for her to store her clothes. She had a window in her room too, but just like mine, hers did not securely close and lock either, and the curtains were in poor shape also. There were stains on her bedding and bed bugs on her bed also, which she suffered for in the morning. My youngest daughter took the back bedroom, which had no storage at all for clothes. The window was in major need for repair, full of grime and rust, and could not lock or open properly either. There was a small hand basin in her room, the only one that worked properly in the house. There was just an old metal bed with the host's belongings packed underneath it, so nowhere for her to store her suitcase either. The walls were in disrepair and in great need of treatment and redecoration. We looked in the bathroom area to find a small shower room with a separate toilet. The shower room was in disrepair, dirty, and a waste pipe from the washing machine had been cemented into the wall to allow the dirty water to flow directly into the shower cubicle. The toilet was smaller than the average size and paid huge resemblance to the toilets fitted for children. Even the toilet brush in its holder was taller than the toilet bowl. There was no hand basin in the toilet area, which meant that our only option would be to disturb my youngest in her room every time we either went to the toilet or just needed to wash our hands. Upon entering the kitchen, our attention was immediately drawn to how dirty the place was. Thick layers of grease and grime on cabinets, walls, pipes, floors, kitchen equipment. The missing knob on the cooker. I attempted to turn on the stove using a lighter as there was either no ignition button on the stove or it didn't work. I had to look for an igniting tool in the host's drawers to try that way. I found 4, but all 4 didn't work. I turned on the gas just to see if it even had gas. There was no gas, and no reaction from the stove whatsoever. Then we noticed the infestation of cockroaches in the kitchen. We saw quite a few of them behind and around the area of the fridge. As it was so late, we had no choice but to sleep there, as despite our concerns, Catherine was not willing to rectify the situation at all and had continued to blame me for her incompetence. My children were very tired, and soon jet lag took me over too. Almost 2 hours after we gained access to the house, I was awoken by multiple dogs barking outside. They continued barking without a break until around 5 a.m, so I was unable to fall back to sleep until they stopped. They began barking again by 6:30 a.m, so my first night at this nightmare house, and after a 9-hour flight, I only managed to get 2.5 hours sleep. In the morning, I saw an even bigger cockroach than the rest from the night before in the same area. I woke my children up and they complained to me about their itchy skin and not feeling comfortable or safe there. We immediately got all our stuff together and quickly wheeled all our luggage out onto the veranda. I contacted Catherine and asked for a full refund after trying to reason with her and make a peaceful resolution. She continued to blame me, but in the same breath told me she didn't want us in her house anymore and asked me to leave. She tried to say she was worried if we stayed, we would break things in her house. We hadn't spent more than 9 hours in her house, and most of those hours were through the night. So my children and I were made homeless, and I had to find and pay for emergency accommodation. I managed to confirm a room in Sun Bay Hotel, Oistins, for $271 Barbados, but I had to wait on relatives as I didn't know where it was or how I was going to transport us and our luggage to the hotel. I had to pay a taxi $40 Barbados to transfer us and our luggage to the hotel, and as we were still waiting to hear back from Airbnb the following day, had to pay for another night's stay in the hotel, this time paying $451 Barbados because they only had that room available. Our previous room was no longer available. The prices for the hotel were room-only basis, so we had to pay extra for breakfast too, which was an extra $25 Barbados per person. By the second evening at the hotel, and after many hours of chasing down Airbnb, I received confirmation that Airbnb were respecting the host's wishes and not going to refund me or find us elsewhere to stay. I was traumatized, angry, hurt, frustrated, but most of all, felt sad that my children had been let down, worried how I was going to protect and provide for them under such dire circumstances. Each day had been excruciating for me physically, as whilst on our journey here, the plane flight was painful and uncomfortable for me, and I had sustained a knee injury as a result. I found it extremely difficult to mobilize and was relying on a walking aid to get about on foot with. After updating my family with the news, I was advised to report the situation to the local police. So on Friday, we went to Oistins Police Station, Barbados, to report this injustice. The police explained that as this was a civil matter, they couldn't do anything for us except ask the lady to refund our money, and that we would have to wait until our return to deal with this situation legally. The police drove us to the house, approached the aunt, who in turn accused us of breaking the toilet, and also called Catherine, who refused to refund our money or rehouse us. The police said there was nothing more they could do, and that if there was nothing we could do, then we should just go back to the UK. I was in shock, as were my children. When we exited the patrol car, my daughter broke down emotionally outside the station and ran off. The police showed no compassion and asked what my daughter would do now. She was so upset, insinuating she was going to commit some form of crime. This made me angry, but I remained calm at all times. I just expressed how sad it was that this could happen, and the officers hired to protect and serve its community is more concerned with what a teenager would do whilst dealing with a broken heart rather than deal with a thief and a fraudster. Family members were waiting at the police station for us on our return and witnessed my daughter breaking down. Also, by this time, I had contacted my 76-year-old dad, who was also crying down the phone, angry, worried and stressed out that he couldn't be physically with us to get justice. This in turn caused my heart to break even more. I had brought my children on holiday for the first time. We were supposed to be independent and having a good time, not causing disruption to family residents and stress to family members overseas who felt helpless and worried, scared for our survival. One of my cousins got in contact with the High Commissioner of Barbados, who also attended the station whilst we were there, and tried his best to help us, but we were obstructed by the laws of the land due to the original booking taking place online and the host not being a resident in Barbados.
For 2 weeks we had a place to stay, but no money for food shopping or to travel around the island. Family helped to support us, but the new house had no Wi-Fi, so we couldn't contact anybody and nobody could contact us. It was like we were shut off from the world. All of this wouldn't have happened if the woman had been honest and refunded us our money. None of it would have happened if it wasn't for her. It's so disappointing and foul that you could allow someone to go homeless in another country for your own selfishness. I think we should be refunded the money paid for the accommodation and any money that my mum had to pay out because of her misconduct. I don't think the owner of the house should continue to rent properties, and I think Airbnb needs to improve their services by inspecting their properties and checking that their advertisements are up to date. This experience stops me from trusting online services and renting properties in the future. It's put me off travelling, a passion of mine, and I'm only 13. How will I be so sure it won't happen again?